Before we get started in the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Gyamuni. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. I have a notebook. Near the conclusion of the Four Noble Truths. So today we're on the fourth and final of the truths, which is the path. After I'm done with the Eightfold Path. And I heard an echo of myself. Okay. So what was I going? I got distracted by myself. So the fourth noble truth is the conclusion of the way out of our suffering, right? So the first noble, and they're suffering because of our 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. The cause of that suffering, because of the 5 aggregates, is the clinging to those aggregates, or more specifically, the attachment that we have to those desires that come from the 5 aggregates. 12 links of dependent origination, which is essentially the specific conditions that cause us to be born and reborn in this cyclic life. Then we have suffering, and last time we went over the 5 spiritual faculties that help us on that path to eradicating the causes of that suffering, of our suffering. And the fourth noble truth is the kind of the roadmap of how we can live our lives in a way that will end those causes of suffering. And the Buddha gives us the Eightfold Path, the Noble Eightfold, put into subcategories, or 3 subcategories. It falls under morality, wisdom, and concentration. So the first 2, right view and right intention, are kind of grouped into the wisdom group. Right speech, action, and livelihood are in morality. And then effort, mindfulness, and concentration is under the category of concentration, or samadhi. And so as we kind of, and I'll go through each category for the next few weeks, but today I'm just going to, next week, I'll cover the first group of wisdom. But the Eightfold Path is essentially it's a living path, right? Just like the 5 precepts, for instance, right? It's nothing that is, right? It's not something that is, what I'm trying to say here. It's not, sorry, I'm losing my mind this morning. It's not something that's so strict and kind of bounds us to something. It's not a set of rules necessarily, or commandments that's like, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like this. If we react like this, that we will have a better outcome, a happier outcome, a more peaceful outcome, a calmer mind. And so the Buddha gives us this path, these paths, Eightfold Path, as a way to help guide us through the chaos that causes through the Eightfold Path. We'll see just how they are just common sense, things that help guide the way we think, the way we act, and the way we say, right? Thought, speech, and action. And so for right view and right intention, right, that falls under the wisdom category. These 2 fact insight into the nature of reality, into the nature of how things actually are, right? They help us penetrate the ignorance that causes us to suffer, right? Because as we have, as we already know, right, the main causes of suffering, well, mostly, is the three poisons, right? Ignorance, greed, and anger. And ignorance is the most difficult one to eradicate because it is what drives our entire reality. It is how we see things, how we react to things because of our ignorance, right? Ignorance in this case means just not knowing. We do not know the truth of our reality. Our entire perspective of life is according to how we see things, is according to our perceptions, our perspectives, our experience in life, right? And so when we see something, we react, we're reacting correct. It may not always be right. It may not always be the best solution. But because we don't know that, we react in most situations in a unwholesome meditation class that the majority of our suffering comes from our reaction to things, right? How we react to things. Because our reaction, our response to things is what's going to drive our next steps. And so as we progress through the factors, Eightfold Path, right, the next subcategory is ethical conduct, Sila, right, for right speech, right action, right livelihood. And these practices helps purify our behavior so that we can stop creating further suffering, purify our minds, to help purify the way that we think, the way that we see things, the way that we observe things. Because the very first factor is right view, which is also the most important of all the Eightfold Path. Because the Eightfold Path isn't something that kind of happens sequentially, right? It's not, unlike a lot of other lists in Buddhism where it's like it's one after another and this is the progression of it. The Eightfold Path doesn't work like that. The Eightfold Path has to be worked together as a kind of a little community, right? But and so we can kind of mix and match the Eightfold Path. Because its right view, its view or understanding is what leads to everything else, right? Because if your understanding or your view of something is incorrect or negative or misleading or misguided, then everything else under that kind of will follow suit, right? So if you have wrong thinking of something, it will be off, right? Your intentions will be off, your efforts will be minimal or non-existent. So everything kind of falls behind right view. And so right view has to be fully understood. And then the last three categories of effort, mindfulness, and concentration, right? These are aware of our lives. And so rather than suppressing suffering, right, the path teaches us to understand it deeply so that we can see it, so that we can let go of the clinging. The path is the antidote to our suffering. We have to be able to understand that the Eightfold Path is something that has to be experienced, right? It's an experiential path. It's not something that we can just surface level understand, right? Because we can read about the Eightfold Path, we can read about the Four Noble Truths. To actually fully understand and comprehend it, we have to be able to experience it and realize it for ourselves. Because if it's experienced, then you know it's real, right? You have that faith that this worked, right? Or you saw the truth, or you saw the realization of the teaching or the path that you're on. Because the Buddha did not ask us for blind faith, right? He offered a path, and he asked us to test it and realize it for ourselves, right? That's one of the beautiful things that has come from the Buddha, is that he's had always guided his disciples and told, I want you to go out, I want you to practice it, to experience it, and fully realize it for yourself. Because if you fully realize it for yourself, then you don't have to, right? value and say, all right, Venerable Quang Tree said this, it must be right. I could be 100% wrong, right? I could be just teaching blasphemy at this point, right? But it's going to be up to you now to go and to study and to that realization that this is something meaningful. This is something that is true. And you want to progress more. You want to achieve more. You want to develop more so that you can attain more, right? So right view helps us understand. Right view will help us understand our suffering, will help us understand the reality of things. And eventually, because once we start to see things and understand this more and become more aware and become more mindful and we study more and practice more and meditate more, then that matures into direct seeing, right? That's kind of the conclusion of right view, is direct seeing. And as we progress and go down the line, right, then everything else kind of matures, comes into light, gives us this continuous awareness. Because right now, if you're trying to go out in the world and be mindful 24/7, well, it's kind of impossible to be mindful 24/7, right? Because mindfulness has to be, for most people, has to be directed, has to be brought up consciously, right? I need to be mindful of this, right? But as we practice more, right, of being mindful, because then it becomes a little bit more habitual, it becomes a little bit more automatic. You don't have to bring up you don't have to be consciously telling yourself, I need to be mindful. You just become mindful. You're just aware. This doesn't mean being mindful and aware of every step you take or every breath you take or every bite you take, right? It just means being able to. The example that I use quite often is when we're meditating, right? When we're meditating and when we're sitting or whatever you're doing or laying down on your handstand, whatever, when you're meditating and you have the object of meditation, reaction is to shift their attention from their meditation object to whatever externality just happened, right? So if the door opened, an unmindful person will shift their attention to that door and be like, oh, who's at the door? Why is the door opened? Why are they walking to the middle of my meditation? Why are they disturbing my meditation? Who are they? Why are they late? Unmeaningful, unbeneficial to you, right? This is wrong view because you're adding something more to what reality is. Because the reality of it is the door opened, a sound was made, or you heard a sound, right? So that's extra information. Because that extra information that you're adding could be completely wrong. Because you don't know who it is. You don't know why they're late. You don't know what caused them to be tardy or whatever, right? They could have been stuck in traffic. They could have didn't know where to go, right? Maybe they tripped outside and had right? It wants to make an excuse for things. So it's trying to fill in the gap. It's trying to fill in this empty space of not knowing. And so it makes things up just to satisfy itself. But we do that for a lot of things, right? When we see an accident, we ask the same questions. What happened? Who was involved? How many people are involved? Did somebody die? Did somebody have to go to hospital, right? We're asking some answers to it, right? Whether it's a full answer or just speculation or whatever it may be, but still, it's adding more than what is true. And so once we start to see that and really pay attention to the mind and how from ever surfacing, right? In the office or talk to students or to parents, and they're talking in your mind, you're already thinking of a response. You're already thinking of the future, right? Which is not always helpful because you're not listening. You just hear, but you're not really listening. And so when we're able to see that and slow the mind in whatever situation that we're in, then it helps us to build up our practice. We begin to react less, right? We begin to have greater peace. We begin to have less attachment to the idea of self, or to the foundation of what we call the middle way, right? We have heard the middle way. It's the avoiding of the two extremes of sensual indulgence or the extreme of self-mortification, right? Which sounds pretty dramatic, but in our own way, right? Just completely denying them either, right? There's a middle path, there's a middle balance between things. And so we've said it before, you know, the cause of our suffering is the attachment to our desires, right? But more specifically, the clinging that we have to some of our desires. The word or Sanskrit word is, but there is a good kind of desire, right? A good kind of dharmic desire, where we have to have these desires to really a bad desire. But there are good desires and there are bad desires. But simply put, to kind of determine whether they're good or bad, this is one way to do that is to ask if it's helpful, is it harmful, is it beneficial, right? Because if it's helpful, harmful, beneficial, if it's unhelpful, harmful, or unbeneficial to you or to others, it's probably not a good thing. Right? But the practice allows us to pause, right? That's the whole point to the Eightfold Path or to our practice, is to be able to pause, or to teachers or to parents, right? You're not reacting right away, meaning that you're not coming up with a conclusion or a response or retaliation in your mind at that point when it's happening. Same thing when you're in an argument, or when you're even having a regular conversation with someone, right? Most people are already in their mind, which isn't entirely a bad thing necessarily, but it doesn't allow us to truly listen. It doesn't allow us to truly contemplate or really reflect on what is being said so that we can come up with an applicable, positive or wholesome response. And so by that, the whole coming up of a response in our mind just feels natural, right? And we don't necessarily see anything wrong with that. But that's more or less because of society and the whole fast movement of how our lives should be, right? Or we think we should be. Able to calm down or calm the mind, reacting from a place of understanding, reacting from a place of compassion and generosity, right? Truly giving versus just spitting out some words and hoping for the best. So the entire practice helps us cultivate that balance, right? The middle way helps us cultivate that balance. It gives us discipline without the rigidity of it. It helps us that grasp. Much more I want to go into this. But just like I've mentioned with the 5 steps, right? It's not a list of do's and don'ts. Common sense practices, right? So the 5 precepts, right? So abstaining from killing, abstaining from lying, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from intoxicants, right? These are not religious necessarily, right? It's common sense not to kill, common sense not to steal, common sense not to lie, common sense not to what else am I missing? Commit sexual misconduct or take intoxicants and harm yourself and others, right? This is common sense. And if you live by these precepts, then you allow yourself that place of peace, right? Of honesty. And so the Eightfold Path kind of is the same way. And as we go through the path, we'll see that, there are certain aspects to each one where there are some additional guidelines, right, that the Buddha provides. In dealing with weapons and intoxicants or drugs and alcohol, he asks us not to work in human trafficking or sex trafficking or child trafficking, right? So he's giving us a list of things that we know is not a good thing to do, right? Or to avoid. And in other cases, he's asking us to, instead of abstain, asking us to meditate more, right? He's providing us the two main meditation methods of samatha and vipassana, concentration meditation and contemplation meditation, or insight meditation. And by providing, it helps strengthen the realization of all the other factors. It helps strengthen our realization of the Four Noble Truths, right? This is the foundation, right? The Four Noble, think of the Four Noble Truths as the four walls of the house, right? And the Eightfold Path is all the windows and doors and the roof and the foundation, right? This is all you need to be safe. This is all you need to live a healthy, wise, and one can become enlightened, fully enlightened. You can become a Buddha by attaining these. Obviously, that's not as easy said, right? Which is why we have other teachings that provided us ways to enlightenment. But this is the most foundational. This is the most fundamental teachings that will guarantee, at the very least, guarantee you all right, I'm gonna stop talking. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts. Yes, sir.
You just said this is the only thing we need. And I actually agree with that statement. Then why making it so complicated for people like me?
It's not complicated.
Complex.
It's not complex either. Well, it's a little complex, but there's so many other things because this doesn't always work for everybody. Okay? The beautiful thing that the Buddha gave us, okay? The beautiful thing that the Buddha gave us is because we have the plethora of different sutras. We have thousands of sutras, right? One teaching from another. And so he taught in different ways of the same teaching, right? And so there's maybe 10, 20 different versions of a teaching. Sorry, there's 10 or 20 different. The way I would teach the Eightfold Path, because I understand the way that I want to be taught, the way I understand or learn things is different than everybody else's. So I have to, make it a little bit more simplified. But if I were to teach you the way I would want to be taught, or the way my notes are, the way I study, we've been talking about the Four Noble Truths for almost 2 months now? I'm trying to help you. I don't want to sit 3 months on one noble truth. 3 months on one noble truth. But I could make it as complex or as complicated as I wanted to, but I don't. So I'm taking lessons from the Buddha. It's enlightenment. But he just wants to teach it in different ways, because not everybody is wise enough that can do that. And also, the Buddha also understood that not everybody can live or follow every single of the Eightfold Path either, right? He knew that vocations that the Buddha told us to abstain from is butchery. But he knew that butchers existed in the world. And so because of that, the Buddha gave them an alternative teaching because he couldn't follow this factor, right? And so that's why. Just don't become a butcher. Don't traffic and don't do all the other things that you're supposed to do, and then you can follow it. But there are butchers in the world. There's no way you can fully realize the Eightfold Path. You're stuck. Because if you're stuck on this one teaching, well, guess what? You have thousands of others you can follow and still attain enlightenment. And maybe more difficult and maybe harder, it may take more time because you're doing something that's not great, but it doesn't mean it can't be possible. Right? Just because someone's in prison doesn't mean they can't become a Buddha. They're more likely to become a Buddha faster than you are. More time for sure.
Yeah, it's like you give examples of how much is in the water, and you want to see through the water. So it depends on some ponds that have less mud.
Right.
It's going to be hard.
Right.
What kind of swimming people are doing. If somebody is so clean or somebody is involved, they won't see all this and you kind of explain it. So in order to get to different levels, and for us too, it took a while to understand. Now I understand after teaching. So now it looks a little bit clear.
Your enlightenment as a example I used to use is think of your enlightenment as a foggy mirror, right? Just like after you get out of a hot shower, the mirror in your bathroom is really fogged up, right? You really can't see your own reflection, right? You can see maybe a nice little patchy figure, right? A dark figure in a mirror, but you really can't see it. And so our life, our suffering is that foggy mirror. But as you start to practice and purify the mind, right, the mirror gets clearer and clearer. And so as we practice, our practice becomes, let's say, your wet towel, right? And so you wipe the mirror with a wet towel. But the wet towel keeps the mirror streaky, there's little fuzz balls on it, right? It's not completely clean yet. And so you can now kind of see a figure, but it's not fully clear just yet. So then maybe you use your hand. So the hand takes off the little fuzz balls, but now it's still streaky, right? And so as you practice, no fuzz balls, and it's clear. And you see your self fully without any mess, right? So as you practice more, as you start to purify the mind more, the potential for enlightenment or enlightenment itself becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. Exactly. Good. What else you got for me? In the past, I think I went through each of the Eightfold Path one by one. But this is our blueprint. This is the way that will make things better, hopefully. As long as no one's butchering or trafficking, I think we're all okay. Right? No one's trafficking here?
You start thinking about something immediately, which you start willing. I was watching the lessons, and I'm we're not coming out of that. It's not happening. They're taking a long time, things they're settling out. Oh man, they're right.
If you think you're perfect, then you're already a goner, right? There's one example, I think it's from the Dalai Lama, that he said, if I am the number one, he's referring to himself. He's like, if I'm the number one, because he's believed to be the reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, right? But he's saying that if I were to think I'm the best, I'm the number one in the world, then I have no room for improvement, right? Right? That means that you don't want to study more, you don't want to learn more, you don't want to know more. If you think you're perfect, then you have no room to better yourself. But in reality, we're all imperfect. We all have the potential to learn more and to become better. And in our practice of mindfulness and awareness, for instance, doesn't truly make you the best, right? It just means that something happened and an award was made, but then next year someone else is going to win it, potentially, right? I'm right there with you. I don't like children, so it's okay. Any other questions? Yes.
So with right speech, one of the aspects is
if there's no benefit to that discussion, then it would be considered idle talk. Like asking how the weather is, for instance, is technically idle chatter. Right? Oh, it's gonna rain. Looks like it's gonna rain today. Oh, I don't know. I mean, we had that conversation earlier, actually, so we were all participating in idle chatter. That's technically idle chatter because there's no benefit that's coming out of that discussion, right? It allows you to make a mental note to cover your car or to park in the garage, then that's beneficial because it's doing something. But otherwise, if there's no doing, basically that concludes from that discussion, then it would be considered idle chatter. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I kind of disagree with that because that's community building. I mean, it's not like we're going to spend 30 minutes talking about weather with just 1 minute, 2 minutes to just keep going, talk about something else that might be mindful, that might be useful. I mean, aren't we a community of people?
I mean, I guess that's a subjective viewpoint. To me, I don't. Y'all already know me. Well, because I'm into it. But it's the, I guess what makes it fall under the unwholesome, but the negative side is the continuation or the consistently idle chattering, right?
In that is basically like waste of time. So
right.
Over-prepare like situation of you. And it's like there's a story about this squirrel and like that walnuts and just this stuff like that. And she just runs like, okay, something is the big storm coming, like so that's the thing, like it's just kind of it starts from some gossip and it can become very huge.
Right.
Start a lot. That's the reason why it's like a butterfly somewhere and then cause a hiking somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. We also have to indulge in it. But even if there's an indulgence, we have to still remember, all right, 2 minutes is the maximum time we're going to talk about the weather.
Unless we're complaining.
Unless we're complaining. Because I'm always complaining about the damn weather. I hate it. Beautiful. Anything else?
with gossip, like a lot of people just do that.
You can do what I do and just walk away. You can walk away or just stay silent, because silence is also a response, right? And so typically when you're in a group of people gossiping, everyone expects everyone else to gossip too. But if you're not gossiping, then what we spoke yesterday is there's a domino effect of the kind of response you give. I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that's the two options that the Buddha provides, is to literally walk away or just to stay silent if you can't walk away. I'm a big fan of walking away. I walk away all the time.
Sometimes you have like a person or a person character or whatever is harming you. And also like gossiping in workplace or some public place, if you are gossiping in the car and like you're kind of talking something nonsense which is annoying other people, so you can harm other people, and that is not only harm to yourself.
Gossiping. I mean, I don't know where I read that, but I did read something about it. I think it was Thích, one of his books. He says and actually it's an example he gives about gossips. It might be you, it might be someone. But he says, when you know that right speech comes to not gossiping, then you go the cycle, because I'm remembering now, and in this case it would be right action, because the Buddha says you should actually associate with people that are on the same path as you are. And if there's someone just gossiping, feel free to walk away, because that's not useful for your practice.
I remember in the karmic effect, I just went to the idea like when we gossiping and it's affecting other people, other group of people, so it comes back. But eventually, like, and then you see suffering later on, but you already showed that.
Right.
So that whenever it goes out, it comes back.
You're inspiring, because if you're gossiping, you're inspiring gossip in everybody else, right? You're planting that gossip seed in their field, in their mental field. And if you continue to gossip, then you're helping them cultivate that gossip seed of hurting. So someone else who doesn't like gossip or doesn't want to gossip, you're building frustration up within them, right? You're building up anger. And so that's also a harm too, right? So even though they may not be participating in the gossip, but they're being harmed. All right, so we'll go ahead and conclude. Please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times, and we'll transfer the merit and go to chanting. Namo Shakyam Mori Bodha. Namo Shakyam Mori Bodha. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them alignment. Namo Shakyam. The insensate place auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body. Homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva, and in gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself free, our care, efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings become happiness and realize our true home. the eternally abiding Buddha, the supreme Dharma and peace, and 3 periods of time. Homage to the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, my true Shri Great Wisdom Bodhisattva, Universal Great Conduct Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattva. Homage to Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate strength. Sattva, earth store, great vow, Bodhisattva, and the glorious the unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni. A pilgrim briefly in this world, I am grateful and joyful to hear the Lotus Sutra. How hard to be born a human again, but I might hope to hear what the son of Maitreya, not yet arisen in the long night's darkness, in between only the Lotus Sutra sheds its light, the wonderful Dharma of the Lotus Sutra. Whoever copies it, reads it, lives it, they say will be sure of. He who chants the Lotus Sutra is guarded by a heavenly. He wanders the world without fear like a lion king. Dharma Pundarika Sutra, Namo Sajat Pundarika Sutra. Let's go to page 132 for chapter 24. For the Bodhisattva, wonderful sound at the time Shakyamuni Buddha emitted a beam of bright light from the knob of flesh on top of his head, one of the features of a great man, and also in my brows illuminating the Buddha worlds in the eastern direction, equal in number venerable teacher, immeasurably and boundlessly great multitude of bodhisattvas surrounded him and paid reverence, and for these he preached the law, the beam of bright light from the white tuft of Shakyamuni Buddha illuminate the whole land. At the time in the land adorned with pure light, there was a bodhisattva named Wonderful Sound, who long ago had planted numerous roots of good. Thousands and thousands, millions of Buddhas he had succeeded in obtaining all kinds of profound wisdom, gaining the samadhi of the wonderful banner mark, the Dharma flower samadhi, the pure virtue samadhi, the samadhi of the consolation king sport, the conditionless samadhi, the seal of wisdom samadhi, the samadhi that allows one to understand the words of beings, the samadhi that gathers together all banished samadhi, the adorned king samadhi, the pure light glow samadhi, the pure storehouse samadhi that gains great samadhis equal in number to the sense of 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million Ganges. When the light emitted by she spoke to the Buddha, pure flower consolation king wisdom, saying, world honored one, I must journey to the Saha world to do obeisance, wait on and offer alms Muni Buddha, and to see Bodhisattva Manjushri, Prince of the Dharma, Bodhisattva Medicine King, superior practices and 10 Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva medicine superior, Bodhisattva wonderful sound, said to the Buddha, world honored one, my journey now to the Saha world is in all respects due to the power of the thus come one, a sport carried out by the thus come one's transcendental powers, and adornment to the thus come one's blessings and wisdom thereupon the Bodhisattva, and through the power of the Samadhi in a place not far removed from the Dharma seat on Mount Gidhakuta created a jeweler of silver, their stems of diamond and their calyxes of Kishuka jeweled. At the time the Dharma Prince Manjush, spying the lotus flower, spoke to the Buddha, Akushika jewels. At the time Shakyamuni Buddha said to Manjushri, this Bodhisattva and Mahasattva wonderful sound wishes to leave pure flower consolation king wisdom, and surrounded by 84,000 bodhisattvas who come to this just to offer alms to and hear the lotus sutra. Manjushri said to the Buddha, world honored one, what good roots has this bodhisattva planted? What benefits has he cultivated that he can exercise such great transcendental powers such as this? What samadhi does he carry out? I beg you. If we carry out this samadhi, then we will be able to observe that sattva in his bearing and conduct. Shakyamuni Buddha said to Manjushri, many treasures has come, one who entered extinction so long ago will manifest his form for you. Then the Buddha, many treasures, said to the Bodhisattva, wonderful sound, come good man, the Dharma Prince Manjushri wishes to see your body. With that Bodhisattva wonderful sound vanished, quaked and trembled in 6 different ways, and in all of them 7 jeweled lotus flowers rained down, in the instruments of hundreds and thousands of heavenly musicians sounded of themselves without habit. Bodhisattva's eyes were as big and broad as the leaves of the blue lotus, and 100,000, 10,000 moons put together could not surpass a perfection. Hundreds and thousands of blessings, his dignity and virtue adorned with many special marks, has a stalwart raised above the earth, the height of 7 tala trees, and with hosts of bodhisattvas paying reverence, he had journeyed to Magdhakuta in the Saha world. When he arrived there, he descended from the platform of 7 treasures, bearing a necklace worth hundreds, and to the ground made obeisance to the Buddha's feet, and presented the necklace, addressing the Buddha in these words: world-honored one, the Buddha, pure flower, consolation, wisdom, wishes to inquire about the world-honored one. Are your illnesses few? Are your worries few? Can you endure the world's affairs? Are the living beings easy to rest? Are they not excessive in their greed, anger, ignorance, jealousy, stinginess, and arrogance, and filial conduct toward their parents? Are they not disrespectful toward shamanas and given to wrong views and other evil? Do they not fail to control their 5 emotions? Who entered extinction so long ago, come in his tower of 7 treasures to listen to the law. The Buddha also wishes to inquire about many treasures, thus come whether he is tranquil and at ease with few worries, patience, and long abiding. World-honored one, I would like to see the body of this wonderful sound, saying, excellent, excellent, you have come here to be able to offer to Shakyamuni Buddha, and to listen to the Lotus Sutra, and see Manjushri and the others. At the time the Bodhisattva full sound, what good roots has he planted? What benefits has he cultivated? That he possesses these supernatural powers. The Buddha replied to Bodhisattva, flower virtue, and was called manifesting all worlds, and his call gladly seen for 12,000 years. The Bodhisattva wonderful sound employed 100,000 types of musical instruments to provide an offering to the Buddha. Was made of the 7 treasures, and recompense for these actions he has now been born in the land of the Buddha, pure flower, consolation, king, wisdom, possesses these supernatural powers. Flower virtue, what is your opinion? The Bodhisattva wonderful sound, who at that time made musical offerings to the Buddha, cloud, thunder, sound, king, and presented, who is here now? Flower virtue, this Bodhisattva wonderful sound has already made offerings to and waited on measurable number of Buddhas. Long ago he planted the roots of virtue and encountered hundreds, thousands, and thousands, millions of Nayutas of Buddhas, equal in number to the sands of the Ganges. Flower virtue, Bodhisattva manifests himself in various different bodies and preaches the sutra for the sake of living beings in various different places. At times as a great general of heaven, at times as a heavenly king Vaishnavana, at times as a wheel-turning sage king, at times as one of the petty, at times as a rich man, at times as a householder, at times a chief minister, at times as a Brahmin, at times as a monk, a nun, a layman believer, or a laywoman believer, at times as a wife of a Brahmin, at times as a young boy or a young girl, at times as a heavenly being, a dragon, a yaksha, a gandharva, an asura, a garuda, a kinnat, a mahoraga, a human or a non-human being. And so preaches the sutra, the hell dwellers, hungry spirits, peace, and the numerous others in difficult circumstances are thus all able to be saved. And for the sake of those who are in women's quarters of the royal palace, he changes himself into a woman's form and preaches the sutra. Form of a voice hearer is what is needed to bring salvation. He manifests himself in the form of a Prateka Buddha, and preaches Allah. If the form of a Bodhisattva will bring salvation, he manifests a Bodhisattva If the form of a Buddha will bring salvation, he immediately manifests a Buddha form and preaches the law. Thus he manifests himself in various different forms depending upon what is appropriate for salvation, and if it is appropriate to Mahasattva's wonderful sound has acquired great transcendental powers and the power of wisdom that enable him to do all this. At the time the Bodhisattva flower virtue said to the Buddha, world on earth, this Bodhisattva wonderful sound has planted the roots of good man. This samadhi is called manifesting all kinds of bodies. The Bodhisattva wonderful sound dwelling in the samadhi is able in this manner to enrich and benefit immeasurable living beings. When the Buddha preached this chapter on Bodhisattva wonderful sound, the 84,000 persons in the Saha world also attained this samadhi and please go to tab 9, page 171. Heart of the Pasha Paramita, the Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the deep being, listen, Shadiput. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shadiputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled, is neither form nor feelings, no perceptions nor mental formation, nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realms of elements and origins, and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no understanding, no attainment, because there is no attainment. The Bodhisattvas grounded in Prajna Paramita find no obstacles for their minds, having no obstacles. They nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore one should know understanding is the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra, the destroyer of ill-being, the incorruptible truth. The mantra Prajna Paramita should therefore be proclaimed. Gate Gate Pada Gate Pada Samgate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Pada Gate Pada Samgate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Pada Gate Pada Samgate Bodhi Swaha. I vow to liberate them. Afflictions are endless. I vow to eradicate them. Teachings are infinite. I vow to learn them. Buddhahood is supreme. I vow to attain. I vow that from now until the end of my life and in all future lives, until I attain Anu, worthy of offerings, a proper and universal knowledge, perfect in understand, conduct skillful in leaving the world through liberation, perfect and complete understanding of all worldly dharma, unsurpassed night taming hero, teacher of gods and people, Kiteshvara Bodhisattva Namo Avalok. Bodhisattva Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Namo Mahasamaprapta Bodhisattva Namo Mahasamaprapta Bodhisattva Namo Mahasamaprapta Bodhisattva Namo Shritigarbha Bodhisattva Namo Manjushri Bodhisattva Namo Manjushri Bodhisattva Namo Manjushri Bodhisattva Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva Namo Maitreya Bodhisattva Namo Maitreya Bodhisattva Namo Maitreya Bodhisattva Namo Great Pure pure sea like bodhisattvas. Namo great pure sea like bodhisattvas. Namo great pure sea like bodhisattvas. Namo deva guarding bodhisattvas. Namo deva guarding bodhisattvas. Namo deva guarding bodhisattvas. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their mind of taking refuge in the Dharma, in myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Practicing the ways of gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and near. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Before I forget, I want to May 31st, we'll be celebrating Vesak, which is the most important and holiest Buddhist holiday of the year. So that'll be on the 31st of May. And then we'll have our first on June 13th. So that'll be a Saturday. Thank you. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.